Welcome to the Path and Purpose podcast, where we explore the journey of living and leading from your soul's purpose. I'm your host, Dr. Cameron Martin. As a spiritual coach and leader, I've dedicated my life to helping changemakers, creatives, and conscious leaders align with their soul's calling. In each episode, we dive deep into the stories of those who are paving the way for a more conscious and compassionate world. My purpose is to explore the intersection of spirituality and leadership, offering you practical insights and inspiration to live and lead with authenticity. Join me as we discover how to embrace our soul gifts, overcome barriers, and learn to lead from being. This podcast will inspire you to live in alignment with your soul's purpose and create a lasting impact, one conversation at a time. Today on the show, I'm here with Luke Kalani. Luke is a ceremonialist, sound healer, musician, and plant medicine facilitator, dedicated to guiding deep spiritual exploration and self-healing, with a mission to help individuals embody their divine gifts and to realize their true essence connected to all of life. He facilitates potent work, helping people to remember why they're here on this planet at this beautiful time. I'm so happy to share this space with him today. Luke, welcome.
Thank you so much. Beautiful introduction, brother.
Okay, so Luke, thank you for spending time with me today. I'm going to start by reading a little bit from your birth chart, and then we'll get into our conversation here. So have you ever had your birth chart read before?
I haven't with Western astrology, just in Vedic a while ago. So I'm excited.
Cool. We geeked out a little bit over human design right before this, so you know a little something about that.
I do, yeah. Human design and gene keys is something I love to dive into that.
Yeah. Well, we'll start here with astrology because that's what I know. That is my medicine. So I have pulled up your birth chart and a couple of things I wanted to sort of say. I won't say too much here, but your sun is in Libra. And actually, your birthday was just a few days ago. So happy solar return.
Thank you so much.
Excited to share this space with you. Okay, so your sun is in Libra, and Libra is all about balance. As an archetype, Libra seeks to find balance and connection with others. Libra, as an energetic, really wants to connect with people. It's a sign that is about aesthetics and beauty, and essentially always finding balance in some way, shape, or form. For you, your sun is in your ninth house, which is all about exploration. It's the house of higher learning. So whether that is formal education or travel internationally, different cultures, philosophy, these are all things that are very central to who you are as a being. So your social connections to people and partners, but also your connections to places in the world that help to inspire you are really important. You've got a lot going on in your 10th house in Scorpio. So the work that you do is deeply scorpionic, meaning that it goes way below the surface. It's deeply psychological. It is healing. We're talking about traumas. We're talking about darkness. We're talking about shadow work. We're talking about all of these aspects of our being that essentially form us into who we are, right? So obviously, as a ceremonialist, we'll share more about your work, but I can say for sure, actually, the first thing I said to you when I looked at your chart was shaman. And he was like, okay. It's a pretty strong signature there too. Also, your ascendant is in Sagittarius, which is really all about expansive thinking. Again, this is sort of this philosopher archetype for you. You're definitely someone who's here to share wisdom and to share knowledge. And I know that talking to you will be fun because talking to a Sagittarius ascendant generally is. It's optimistic. There'll be smiles and laughs and all that kind of thing. People are generally drawn to you. You have a very strong energy at that. And in this lifetime, you are certainly here to learn lessons of self and self-awareness, self-determination, and specifically around the power of your voice and using it to help others, yes, but also yourself. You feel a strong sense of responsibility toward humanity, and you've got a very deep heart. And so I'm really excited to share this space with you today. How did we do?
I got goosebumps, pardon me, to begin with. And I feel like we could just do an entire podcast just from that. So I'm excited to dive into that. Thank you so much. Definitely resonates. Yeah, it's spot on, especially the work around the voice in this lifetime has been huge. Um, we'll get into a little bit more about that later on.
We sure will. So I'm excited to give you this opportunity to share your voice because it is actually one
Yes.
of the things that you're learning in this life. So as we start this conversation, I'd love to ask you really just bring us back to the beginning of your journey. So maybe come and share a little bit with us about the journey to your spiritual awakening.
Wow. So the journey to spiritual awakening for me started at birth, really, because I have so many experiences that I remember from 2 or 3 years old that shaped my reality and shaped me into the person that I am now, going through my own healing journey. I didn't have a father, so from 3 years old, I was just raised by my mom. I had lots of interesting experiences of feeling isolated and not feeling like I fully fit into society. I was into music from coming out of the womb. So sound and music for me was huge. I was interested in instruments and I would sing, and it wasn't until I got older and I think I started to have to deal with some of the trauma that was maybe within me that I started to turn to external vices to numb myself from the pain that I was feeling inside. A lot of that was alcohol, was drugs, then eventually, which was mainly cannabis. And it just was something for me to be able to just numb myself from whatever I was experiencing. My biggest drug, I would say, has been food. That was a huge one for me. It was, I feel like not having a father left an unfillable gap that I was trying to fill with food. And around the age of 28, started to have very unique experiences. I'd met somebody, an ex partner of mine, dear friend of mine, still, and she was the first person I'd ever met that was spiritual. Because at the time, I was an arrogant asshole. Really, that's how I would describe myself. I was heavily into drinking every single day, working in hospitality. We met and she found me and she had seen something in me. She'd just come back from Peru. She'd been drinking with the Shipibo shamans in the Amazon with ayahuasca. And she said, "You need to do this." And I was like, definitely, definitely not. I'm not doing that. Um, my motto was, I don't believe in anything apart from me. I was in, I
Mm.
was a vocal atheist. I didn't believe in God. I didn't believe in a higher power or the universe. I just believed in whatever was a meter away from in my field. And circumstances and events happened as she was speaking to me about the effects and the benefits that this type of medicine can have. And it just started coming in from every direction. I would have conversations and it would pop up, and I would meet people and they were like, "Hey, have you done this?" And they just got back from something. And it was literally a daily knock on the door of um, enticing me in to explore the idea of possibly having an experience that was going to open or heal me in some way. I was in a pub drinking one night, playing pool with my partner, and the guy that I was playing again was like, "Hey, have you ever had DMT? Have you ever done ayahuasca?" And I was like, "No, it's not something I want to do." And he's like, "Well, I've got some if you want to do it." and um,
You're like, nah, I told you I'm good.
and I told you I'm good, but okay. Yeah. So yeah, that night transpired that I actually went home with my partner and with some smokable form of DMT. It's called Changa, and that night was the pivotal moment of my life that completely changed everything for me. I remember sitting in my back garden and rolling this, whatever this thing was, and I smoked it. Had a look online to see how you're supposed to smoke it. You needed to vape it and inhale the fumes and hold it in. And I remember I was already drunk at the time, so I've been out drinking all day. And I did this thing. I remember holding my breath, and all of a sudden, the fabric of my reality, the fabric of my entire being, just dissolved into geometry, into sacred geometry, color, and I was catapulted into the world of archetypal spirit. And for somebody that had never believed in anything outside of physical 3D reality, you can imagine what that was like. And I just remember coming back a few minutes later with my hands over my face, just repeating the words, wow, 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 wow. What was that? Wow. It was as if somebody had come over and just put a pin in this bubble that I'd been living in, and instantly it exploded, and I was able to have a peek under the veil of reality as to there is something more. This, what you are experiencing, is not all there is. And that was enough for me to to begin to completely transform my life and to put myself on a healing journey, which I'm currently on high and always will be throughout my entire life. And I say healing. When I say healing, I see it as holing. I'm putting new truth and integrating them into wholeness. So I'm actually becoming more aware of my external reality through healing. And I've been on that journey for 10 years now. That was my first experience. That was my first spiritual, psychedelic experience.
To talk about blowing open the experiences of your reality.
Yes, it was incredibly, as much as it was eye-opening and transformative. I then had to go about putting the pieces of my psyche back together, because there was a lot of um, new concepts and new archetypes that had been presented to me, because I actually ended up doing this every night for 7 days. After that first night, I returned back and I did it, and I every single time it was like I was going up a ladder until I got to the seventh evening, and I knew that was it. That was whatever was needed to happened, and now I needed to integrate. And I would say that I'm still integrating parts of that very first week to this day, because new little insights keep coming, new twists and turns on the journey always pop up. And I'm just very grateful for it. Honestly, like I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that moment. Um, I truly believe, actually, in later plant medicine journeys, it actually showed me the split of what would happen if I continued down the same path and what would happen if I walked through this brand new door. And what I witnessed and what I watched myself as scared me enough to have the courage to walk through the door into something brand new. And here we are having this conversation, and I'm excited to be here.
Likewise. Hey there. If you're enjoying what we're diving into here on the podcast and want to go deeper, I want to invite you to check out the Soul Purpose Collective. The Soul Purpose Collective is my online community where like-minded changemakers, creatives, and leaders come together to explore what it takes to align and lead from their soul's purpose. Head over to yourpathandpurpose.com/SPC for more details. We'd love to have you join us. One thing I actually really, really love that you've said, and I'm sure you'll have more perspective to share here with your own clients and your experience with the people that you support, but that we are on a healing journey. And I loved what you talked about, the holing journey or becoming whole again, right? Which, it's one thing. I mean, my audience knows this, that to say that I'm committing to a spiritual path is essentially to say that I'm committing to healing myself, or that I'm committing to, I'll use your words here, committing to become whole again.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting experience to be a human, because we come down as consciousness itself from wherever realms we come from, to have this experience inside of a 3D body. The body is created from consciousness itself, so it's not anywhere near as solid as we believe that it is, which I'm sure you'll have something to share here from your own experiences. But it's a unique experience to be human and in a 3D body, and to experience consciousness in such a limited scope, because
Yeah.
essentially it is. It's
Yes. Yeah.
important, it teaches us all kinds of things, but it's a fairly limited scope. And yet, consciousness, source, God, the creator, wanted to experience itself, and so continued to limit down,
Mm.
limit down, limit down. And here's my experience of what it means to be a human. But when I awaken to the truth of my being, which is to say that I am source, I am one with
Mm.
source, I am one with God, um, with the divine creator that made all things. When we know it, when it awakens within us, then that journey is back to that
Yeah.
as close as we can in the human experience, right? Within our own
Yeah.
consciousness. And so I love what you were saying about going back to wholeness. My audience knows that I'm here and I teach weekly around, spiritual teachings and consciousness and leadership, and even inside my Soul Purpose Collective community. They see this too, but I am also very actively walking my own path. I don't sit here pretending like I'm some guru who's reached
Yeah.
enlightenment and like
Yes.
bow at my feet. Um, but rather quite the opposite, that I'm someone who's very aware of my own journey, and because of that, and very present and very in it, and because of that, I can be of service. And so I really love what you're saying there as this um, expression of what that journey really looks like. Because I know some people listening will be like, yeah, but I'm spiritual, but I don't know if I'm doing enough, or I don't know if I can have the impact in the world, or I haven't had that many awakening moments, or whatever the case may be. That's just ego, right? To
Yeah.
recognize that actually we're all walking the path together
Yeah.
back to wholeness, back to recognizing our true divinity. So I didn't want to jump over that, because I thought it was quite beautiful what you shared there. And even in myself, I personally have not communed with plant medicines aside from ceremonial grade cacao. And I have been on my journey, or my weight. Well, I've been on a spiritual journey since I was also very young. Maybe not two, although perhaps my mother probably say yes, you were. Um, Interesting. I was actually born in front of a class of nurses, so I was
Wow.
actually born teaching,
An audience.
which is kind of interesting. With an audience teaching,
Amazing.
and even as a very young kid, I was always like called like a 40-year-old man in a young kid's body, like this wise spiritual
Mm.
thing, which I have been. But even so, my awakening came in 2019, 18, 19. But the real moment for me that you described of as this, for me, was in 2019. And what came thereafter was the knowing of like, oh, I'm walking this path. I'm going to commit to this wherever this may go. But even now in my community, last week I was talking about my own journey in this particular moment. I carry, or have carried historically in my body, a lot of anger. I have worked with this, but anger isn't an emotion that I have not um, healthily expressed, we'll say.
Mm.
People listening to me and friends of mine will be like, well, you're not an angry person. Well, yeah, precisely. I
Yeah.
don't express anger.
Yeah.
But I've been wronged plenty of times in my life, and I've swallowed a lot of things for other people,
Mm.
and have learned over time to abandon myself. I mean, if we think about, I was a closeted gay man for 10, 12 years of my life. So when you learn every single day to avoid who you are, to not speak in a certain way, to not talk in a certain way, to not make it so somebody could figure it out, you learn to abandon yourself over and over and over again. So I'm well aware of these themes. It's been my healing journey since, 2018, really. But There is an aspect of me that recognizes there is still anger in the body that I
Yeah.
haven't really been able to release. And there is something in me that tells me, maybe a plant medicine is appropriate at this point to start to experience that. I mean, all of what I've done in my consciousness and in my awakening journey has been mostly in meditation and what I can access within my own being in this body. But I'm very curious what you would say or guide me um,
Yes.
as I explain that to you.
It's beautiful because I do a lot of spiritual, I would say, things that fortify the spirit, like meditation, for me, like movement or walking, even being near the ocean, being near nature, which really helps me to feel that healthy, strong, connected spirit. I can really relate to you with anger because I feel like that's also something that is on my journey as well. Because I didn't get angry, I would never have identified with being an angry person,
Me
and
either.
yet there is something in me that has been wronged that just is has swallowed it down. This um and for me, very different to you, but similar. Like, I'm first of all, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your journey. It's really beautiful to hear that. For me, it was swallowing a part of my identity as well. I love my mum so much. She has been such a rock throughout my life, but with her being a single parent, she had to make sure that the world saw her as doing okay, and her way of doing that was to um, protect me in ways, dress me how she believes that I should be dressed, kind of doing the things that I needed to learn for myself. And she didn't have the awareness to allow me to do and to have my own sense of self identity. I felt like that was robbed from me when I was a child. And what that has done has developed this resentfulness and anger inside of me. And I didn't know that until maybe 5 years ago when I did my first breathwork session or ceremony. And it just exploded out of me, so much so that I had to cancel my event, which was 4 days after it, because my vocal cords had been completely shredded. I screamed, and it was a beautiful, and then I sobbed and cried for at least half an hour. It was so cathartic. And what I realized was I can do all of these spiritual fortifying modalities, but all of this stuff it's stuck in my soma, it's stuck in my body. And I'm gonna have to, me being all about balance, draw those two together. I can, yes, I can work on the spirit, but it's just as important for me to do the things that are going to be releasing this trapped energy from the body, from the tissue within my body. um,
Mhm.
so one of those things being breathwork has been something that I found an amazing tool for me to be able to really go into the body and release. But even then, that seems to be coming from an emotional platform. That's me releasing my anger as an emotional platform. I still need to deal with the body. So, my dear friend, who's a remedial massage therapist, our sessions are very ceremonial in nature. We clear the space, we say a prayer, and it's breath work. And he is releasing the pressure points of the body, the meridians of the body that are holding on to this energy. And so that's giving the chance for that energy to dissipate out of the physical body, out of the soma. I do something called harpe, which is from this particular harpe. I have a contact from the Yawanawa people in Brazil. And what it is it is Nicotina rustica, which is their tobacco plant that is dried in the sun, and that's ground into a powder. And then there's other plants that have been added, that powdered plants. There's ash from tree bark that's put into this mix. Um, and it comes in a little bottle like this. And then that is applied up the nostrils, and whoever is facilitating will open the space and hold space for the other person to have this applied up the nostrils and both nostrils. The medicine of Mapacha, of Nicotina rustica, is incredibly grounding. So for people that are like us, that may be on a spiritual path, that are doing a lot of spiritual work, but have maybe forgotten about the body a little bit, it
Oh
is
yeah, I
an
live in
inst.
these upper
Oh,
chakras.
me too. Yeah, me too. So it's the perfect medicine for me to just really boom and instantly ground into the earth. It helps us to just feel anchored and supported and plugged. We're plugged back into our mother when we have this beautiful medicine. It's also a purgative. So any stuck energy or emotion that may be in the body at the time has the opportunity to be released. I say the opportunity because not everybody releases in the same way. Not everybody accepts this type of medicine in the same way. I like to have the breath being the container for that medicine. So we're very much in the body. I want people to just be staying in the body and not, because if you're having a difficult experience and it can be uncomfortable, having this tobacco blown up your nose, it stings and it feels, for people that are used to just taking off whenever there's something uncomfortable, I need them to stay in their body and to just really experience the sensations, to be with the sensations and allow whatever needs to come up in the moment to come up, and to know that they're safe and held in that container for whatever to come up. Whenever I'm holding ceremony itself, it is between whoever is sitting in front of me and spirit and the plant. The plant is the bridge between themselves and Great Spirit, their ancestors, their guides. And I'm just there to hold that space for them. Sometimes something will come through me and animate my body to do certain things, or it's generally through my voice. There'll be sounds that come out. There'll be certain songs that start to be sung into the space, and those songs and those sounds carry a very unique energetic signature that may be exactly what this person is needing to really let go and release something. I kind of see these songs as like a dentist drill that go in and kind of chip the plaque away off the body. Um, so that could be a modality that would really help you. So yeah, we've got harpe, we've got breath work, remedial massage, or some type of psychosomatic therapy, something for the body. Yoga is another one. Is deeply that yoga in itself. This complete is a complete spiritual science that targets every single limb of spirituality, physicality, and it helps to fortify mind, body, and soul into this beautiful, coherent being. Um, for me, being a Libra and all about trying to find balance, I have thrown myself into things where, if people that know me know that I just go from one extreme to the other, and I have to dive to the depths of each pole on polarity and bring them together into union, into balance, which has been, I'm not sure whether it's because I'm a Libra, but I I lean towards something that I keep getting from spirit is that God is bringing all parts into wholeness. And we have needed to have this world of duality. We have needed to partake of the fruit of good, the knowledge of good and evil, rather than the tree of life, which is wholeness. And I feel that humanity is going through a process right now of integration, of union, and that we have needed this polarity to get us to where we are today, but it's being reflected from the external so that we can begin to integrate with the internal. And I see that in my relationships with my beloved, we are the opposite. And what we're doing is teaching each other the aspects of ourselves that the other needs to become divine, in divine marriage within. And that this whole masculine and feminine dynamic has been so distorted. I tried to even avoid the whole masculine and feminine topic, because I don't see it as somebody needs to hold the pole anymore. I feel like what is being called for us is to come into wholeness, into union, and balance, essentially. But yes, to answer your question, sorry, I digress. I would say harpe, breath work.
You're giving me a lot of stuff. I want to go down different avenues with you. So,
And honestly, I wanted to comment on this a little earlier. You said that some of your community may be feeling like they're not doing enough, or they haven't experienced plant medicine. Even yourself, haven't experienced plant medicine yet. Plant medicine is not the be all and end all, and I am a big advocate of that, and that's my work. I My teaching and my main focus is to teach that you are the medicine and life is the ceremony. And that is all you need, because life will bring these teachings to the surface at the right time for you to be able to observe and integrate in real time, so you don't pin it on something fantastical or magical. This is reality. It presents it
yeah,
to you, and you have the opportunity to make different choices, and in those choices you're healing, you're coming back into wholeness, and you're integrating these lessons. And the plants can be a great tool to help you along the way, but they're not the tool and they're not the way. Life is it. Life is the most potent medicine ceremony you could ever have the pleasure to be on, and we're all on it. Doesn't matter if you're breathing, you're on it. And there is nothing outside of yourself that will bring you into wholeness. Only our own choices and our own return back to the heart. But we have to decide and choose to return. And um, yeah, I just wanted to add that, because I know we'll talk a lot about plant medicine today, and it's I love it, and it has been an incredible tool. But I also don't want people to have the misconception that they need it, because they don't. This, as long as you are breathing, you have a tool that you can really, if you use that breath, you can heal yourself. The breath is the breath of life. It is a breath of God, and all of us share that. We all have that in common. And I am just so in awe of people that decide to have the courage to turn within, to use their own medicine and to heal.
I love what you were saying about really wholeness, and that on our healing journey, we are all that we need, and everything that we need is within us. I love that you shared different ideas for me, because that's what I asked about. But in terms of breath work, meditation, yoga, honestly, just yesterday I was sitting at my computer working on something, and there was so much energy moving through me that was like, you need to stop and do yoga right now, which is what I did. And it felt wonderful. My body moved through quite a bit. So that was really lovely. Yeah, so I personally have had the experience. I mean, I use meditation, I use breath work, I've gone on yoga retreats, all these kinds of things. And what I have found is the same, which is that everything that you need is ultimately inside of you. I love the what you were sharing about polarity too, and how our soul's evolution at this point, from a collective perspective, we are being asked to integrate the parts of ourselves that are polarized. Actually, just in my last episode, I spoke about some teachings from the Law of One that I have
Oh,
been working and teaching with my community, the Soul Purpose Collective, all month long.
oh, I love the raw material is huge.
Yeah, me too. So I think it's more important than ever nowadays, especially because we're getting much closer to an election season and all of these kinds of things in the United States, where people are definitely seeing the effects of polarization, if you want to call it that. And the raw material speaks about, among many other things, the nature of reality and how our souls evolve through different densities. But one of the biggest teachings, I believe, has to do with polarity. And in the third dimension experience of being a human, we experience polarity. When we come
Mm-hmm.
from uh, unity consciousness and come into a human body, we experience separation. That is actually what the unique experience is down here: right,
Yeah.
wrong, good, bad, light, dark, um, all these sorts of things. And the reality is that's not truth. That's just what the experience in the third density is. And Ross speaks about the two paths towards a soul's evolution: the path of service to self and the path of service to others. And the souls that choose the path of service to self, we see a lot of this in the world of, um, you know, self-oriented decision making, manipulation, control, power plays, all these kinds of things. We see a lot of this in leadership and in old traditions of leadership. But the other option is to choose service to others, which is to connect with the heart and to understand that we are all one and serving each other, because ultimately all is one. And so I think this season is really important to be talking about polarity. This is why I've been teaching it this season inside my community, but recognizing also that the healing journey is about that as well. Recognizing what parts of ourselves are polarized, or what parts of ourselves are, holding on to something. For me, for example, if I'm holding on to anger in my solar plexus, right, because of self judgment, well, that is one polarized energy in my physical body, but I also hold a tremendous amount of love and compassion and understanding. These are polarizing energies, these are polarities within myself. And my work is about uniting that, recognizing that both and, but actually all is one and both serve. And so, in you talking about your sacred relationship with your partner, you can be opposites, but you're serving one another through different perspectives and different mirrorings. But within ourselves, we are doing that all the time. And life is showing us that through our triggers, through our traumas, through whatever it might be, to show us, oh, this is still inside of me.
Yeah.
This is for me to look at so that I can come to understand the truth of my being. Because what you said is correct. The masculine feminine conversation, which is really popular to have inside of spiritual circles for sure,
Yeah.
which, in my opinion, manipulates and actually misunderstands much of our nature, which is that we are neither
Yeah. Yeah.
masculine, we're neither and we're both.
Mm-hmm.
Masculine and feminine principles exist, but you, as a soul that exists long before the body, um, is neither masculine nor feminine. But then you come in and have a particular experience. Yes, we could talk about that in my being and in my experience of life. I am much more comfortable, or have historically been more comfortable, with the feminine aspects of my being. This is
Mm-hmm.
true. And the way in which I relate to leadership, which we're going to talk about in a bit, is certainly more of a feminine principle. But I've been many, many, many men in many lifetimes, and many,
Yeah.
many women in many other lifetimes, and something and many things in between, I'm sure. And so I love that you brought that up, because, and we're also seeing this in the world. I think the recognition of LGBTQ experiences. I say it like that because there are many varied experiences. And I think even what we're seeing with, um, people who are teaching us about what it means to be trans, and what it means to be non binary, and what it means to be all these other things, are actually showing us and pointing us in the direction of our true nature, which is unity and its oneness. Because these labels, these identities, these genders, these things are all just temporary, and they're not actually truth.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Like, I honestly feel like you're speaking from my soul right now. And I feel like actually these beings that are incarnated, that are doing things outside of the box, outside of the poles that we are ingrained into us for millennia, are actually pointing to us inside where the conflict is. Because if you have something to say, or you feel some sort of way about that, that is showing where the conflict is within us that needs resolving. And it also is giving the opportunity for that person to then choose in the moment if they are reacting to what they're seeing. Are they choosing the path to self, or are they choosing the path of service to others? And so it's kind of dividing everybody at the same time, which is what's meant to happen. I do feel like we're going in that there is this definite split of people that are wanting to stay in that path of service to self, and they will continue to evolve on that path up until it suits them. And those who are choosing the path to service to others will continue to evolve along that path. But because we are coming to the end of this third density cycle of those where we're coming into balance, because we have to come into balance, because fourth density wouldn't allow polarization. So for us to really step through that veil, or however it happens, I don't know if there's going to be some sort of rapture experience. I doubt it, but I feel like we will, we through our choices, we are coming into balance. And even when we say we want to live from the heart is the center point of our energy body. Even we've got, me and you hang out up here a lot, but then we're also needing to integrate these more visceral, somatic, survival kind of aspects of ourself as well. And I believe that we are on these lots of these previous incarnations, that whoever I am today is to help balance spiritually who I've been in the past, so that I can really just start to come in, start to come home, start to come home. It's like a breath. We've been on the breath, on the breath, and we're coming all the way back in to wholeness. And I totally agree with everything you said there, and I couldn't have said it better than.
Yeah, I love that you shared that. Also, talk about the visual of the breath. My goodness. Yeah, it's like you were listening to my previous episodes and my teachings all month long. So how cool is that? And for those of you who are listening to the episode and haven't heard it, go back to the last one and you'll hear it. Hey everyone, I've got a great free resource for you that I think you'll love. If you're curious about discovering your life's purpose and aligning with your true path, check out my free guide available on my website. This guide is packed with practical tips and insights from your personal astrology to help you to start living in alignment with your soul's purpose. Whether you're just beginning on your journey of self-discovery or you're looking to deepen your understanding of yourself, this resource is designed to support you every step of the way. Don't miss out. Grab your free guide today at yourpathandpurpose.com/life's purpose and take the next step on your path to purpose. There's a number of things I want to talk about with you, but I do believe there's a little bit of a gap in terms of the story. So talk about finding balance. I would like to know how you went from your first experience with medicine to now this is what you're doing, because we sort of jumped over that. And I have a feeling that that's kind of an important piece of your story.
Sure. So after the first initial awakenings, I would say, or no, rememberings, I've had more experiences in which I would use plant medicine for myself to go into a space of the in between the worlds, and go through a process of learning. I was using psilocybin mushroom, and I would sit with psilocybin mushroom and open a sacred space. And during those experiences, I would feel like I was being shown or taught or guided to learn certain things. Or I don't want to say learn, because I felt like it was more of me just having these kind of, oh, I remember that, or oh, I remember how to do that. Yeah,
Remembering.
it was incredible. And me right now in this state, I couldn't tell you like how or what happens in that space. All that I know is that when I go into a ceremonial container and I commune with these types of plants, I go into a mode of service and authority that I can't explain. It's just something that is in me. I don't know whether it comes from me or whether it's I'm just being used as a vessel for it. I do remember a very pivotal moment when it was on Lionsgate in 2019. Lionsgate 2019. I had 5 grams of psilocybin mushroom, and I was shown a portal that started to open up in the room that I was in. And I went and stood in front of it, and it was this rip, almost like a rip in fabric of time and space. And as I glanced through, it showed me lifetimes of this being doing work with plants and doing medicine work. And it was me in all of these different bodies across all of these different aspects of time. And what came through the portal was a hummingbird, and it came directly to my ear here and started whistling into my ear. And I just started to like whistle. And I'm getting goosebumps. As I did that, I just fell to my knees, and I just had this deep remembrance of I don't know. It sounds radical to explain, but I feel that the essence of my soul is a bird. It's some sort of, it belongs to the bird spirits, and I'm here to use my voice. I'm here to sing. I'm here through that song and through that voice to create an environment within people that is going to transform them, and it's going to help them to remember. Because in that moment I was remembering, I was like, I know who I am. Like, this is who I am. This life up until now that's like a human condition. But this, who I am right now in this moment, this is who I am. I know what I'm doing in this space. I know I'm meant to be here. And I know that if I have the courage to trust in spirit, that it will guide me and I will fulfill that purpose that I have today and this lifetime. And after that, that was when I started doing ceremonies for other people. I started having one-on-ones, and people would come and we would sit with psilocybin mushroom and whatever. That those spaces were out of this world. They were magical. I can't explain what happened in that space. But healing happened in that space. And whenever I came back, I was just like, it's not me. So number one, please don't think it's me, because it's not me. It's the space itself. It's the container. It's spirit. It's all of it together. And my entire life for the last 5 years has been me letting go of the idea that I'm doing anything. And I'm an instrument. I play instruments, but I myself am an instrument. And as soon as I allow myself to be used as an instrument, life gets really interesting. And as soon as then I try to control what it sounds like, who plays it, like it's a mess. So I've learned to let go.
A symphony turns into a cacophony when we try to control it too much. Hey, for what it's worth, I wouldn't normally, and I don't normally bring this up to my guests in the show, but it came up a few times in your conversation. So I'm going to say this because I'm hoping it'll be helpful for you. One of your core wounds in this lifetime has to do with your voice. And you've spoken so much about the voice that's coming through you and the voice that you're meant to share and the voice that perhaps you did not have with your mother when you were a kid. Right? That's how that showed up in this life. But the reality is, from many other lifetimes, it wasn't safe to use your voice. You know, you were killed for it, you were whatever it was. And so you really, first of all, the fact that you're even having this conversation tells me that you've done so much of your own healing. But I really wanted to share that with you, that actually this is such a pivotal thing that you came in with in this life, that you wanted to heal and to share, and you are definitely meant to be doing it.
Thank you so much. It has been such a long journey. Even 4 years ago, I had not sang in front of anybody since I was a child. And the thought of singing, and just for context, I sing in front of people every week these days. It's part of my ceremonies, is singing. For me to move through that wounding and that deep I couldn't describe where it came from, and I still can't, but now it makes sense in past life that it's being carried forwards. There has always been an anxiety to speak, an anxiety to to express myself in my truth. And I even see it today in my romantic relationship. And my partner asks me how, my partner is going to ask me how this podcast went today. And when she asks me, I'm going to feel like and this is not her fault. It's something within me that does not feel safe to be able to truly express whatever is on the heart in the moment, because it will be turned around. I will be prosecuted. I'll be punished for it. And it has manifested throughout my lifetime. And I'm definitely ready to overcome this, because what that does is it creates a divide between me and my partner. I don't want that divide. I want to be able to express to her. She can express to me. It creates this gap in intimacy, and I know that she feels it. And that's my work in this lifetime. It's all around my voice. I'm here to be a singer and to use my voice to just to give it to the entire world. And I will get there. It's just I'm on the path of slowly. This
Well, I think
is
we're
another
doing it
step.
right now.
I think so, 100%. And yeah, and this is each stage. But it really matters with these people that I really love and I really care about. It tends to pop up with those more. And yeah, that's something that I'm really working on at the moment. That's it's so interesting that came up because it literally happened last night, and something I'm working through today. It's like the consequences of me not sharing my voice means that I am withholding myself back from love, from deep intimacy, because it is through sharing words and what words mean. Even what are they? They're these incredibly powerful sounds that have so much depth and meaning attached to them, and people deserve to receive that from me, and I deserve to be heard. And that's where the healing will come, and when I allow myself to be heard and all of that. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to do this. And I know it from people that don't know me that there's, oh, he can speak, he doesn't stop speaking. So
Yeah, well, it's really beautiful. And actually, you're giving me this beautiful opening because, in similar ways, I mean, I am here to share my voice. My wounding is not so much about the fear of my voice,
mm,
but it is about rejection. So that's like another piece. I don't mind sharing and speaking and saying and triggering people and all that kind of stuff, but it's the what happens after
yeah.
kind of part for me. But you were just sharing about words and the power of words, and so I'd love to have a conversation with you. I'm going to build a little bridge here. Um, One of the things that I teach, or what I teach, is about being centered leadership. And what I mean by that, by definition, is that leadership is the act of creating space for people to be. And I'm going to give you a little runway here because I'm going to want to talk to you about the connection between leading and being a ceremonialist, leading and holding space and creating space and doing that in ceremony, and what that really looks like. So I teach my clients, and the listeners of this podcast know that my perspective is we understand ourselves at a soul level, why we're truly here, and do the healing work that you and I have been talking about, and to truly recognize ourselves that what happens as a response naturally is leadership. And that when we learn to cultivate spaces within ourselves and for others, that's ultimately what leading is. And the word that I use to share and to teach this is being space, one word, which I downloaded back in 2020. And the idea of a space of being, what I'm talking about is an energetic space. We have being spaces within us, right? Whatever our traumas, our inner thoughts, our ways of being, that's a being space that I cultivate within myself. But you
Mm-hmm.
and I have cultivated a being space in this conversation about specific topics and ways of being among the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a being space with all of our listeners right now as well. So this is happening at a collective level. And I believe that if we bring attention to the spaces in which we be, right? Look, you and I are co-creating this exchange with the divine, of course, but we're
Sure.
co-creating
Yeah.
this exchange. Those who are
Sure.
listening are co-creating this, their own experience of listening with us. These are all being spaces. And I believe if we start to recognize the spaces in which we be with intention, because guess what? We're creating all the time. If you're hanging out by the water cooler and you're talking shit about your coworker, you're still creating something, some probably nasty energetic being space. If you're in the elevator with someone and you choose to avoid them or dart your eyes away, you're still co-creating something in this being space together. So I teach this concept and this understanding because if we bring awareness to the fact that we're co-creating all the time, what does that do to consciousness itself? And what does leadership then look like? If we can take
Mm.
responsibility for the spaces in which we are being and co creating, then leadership looks very different. And so I'm giving you all of this to share. Um, where I'd like to go in this conversation next is sort of the lessons of a ceremonialist or ancient shamans and these sorts of things as it relates to my understanding of leadership, which is ultimately about creating and holding space.
Yeah. It's an interesting topic, leadership, and even the word leadership, I feel, gives me a big clue. I'm just going to speak from my own experience and from my own body of what leadership means to me. Leadership is lead our ship. Me personally, who am I allowing to lead this ship? In the past, before my experiences, what was leading me was conditioning, wounding, hurt, pain. Now I am consciously allowing myself to be led by God and the word of or will of a higher power, whatever that is for you, whatever words that is for you, is I'm receiving information and being moved when I'm being led. So I am being led by that higher power. And when I see others who are in powerful positions of leadership, I can see that they have that connection too. That where they're speaking from is their intention and their power comes from the deep desire to see others succeed them almost. A good leader wants their people to succeed them and to lead themselves. And within a ceremonial container, it's a little bit different because I don't see myself as a leader. What's leading that container is also spirit. It's also the intelligence of the plants, and it's also the people's willingness to really open and receive the medicine that's being offered to them. In a ceremonial container, and the bridge that helps to contain the energy. Anything that comes up, there is nothing that I cannot handle in that space. And there's nothing that is too much or too out there for me to be able to hold every single person that is in that space with integrity, with authority, and to allow them to have the safest, most wholesome experience possible. That can be seen by others as being a leader of that space. But for me, I'm being led by my leader, not me. And so that kind of reflects what I was saying before is that when I see these powerful leaders, and I don't mean the leaders that we're seeing in power, because that's completely different. Leaders that have authority, that are leading from the heart space. They're leading from wisdom, knowing that they don't know. They are unintentionally leading through being authentically who they are and presenting that authenticity out into the world, and people saying, I want that. Like, somebody who is authentically them exudes this magnetism and this power that people follow, because people are seeing a person in their truest expression, and that spirit flowing through them, animating their body. They're not being led by ego. They're not being led by trauma or their own personal desires. They're being led by the wholeness and the service of the collective. And so when we move from that space, we're also offering the opportunity for others to do the same. And I feel like that's what I'm here to do, is to show people that they have the medicine within them, that they have the magic and the leadership qualities within them, and draw that to the surface so that it overpowers the voices in their head that say that they're anything less than already a leader of their ship. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we're aligned in so many ways here, of course, with our messaging, my teachings, and what you just shared. Ultimately, I believe leadership comes from self, but ultimately self with a capital S. And so, what I
Yes.
really did like what you were sharing, um, our old paradigms of leadership, which if I tie back to the concepts of service to self and service to others oriented beings, much of our old leadership paradigms are very service to self oriented. What I can do for me, I'll manipulate and control you to make money, do this, do that. And we accept that this is what leadership is. And I disagree completely. That's not leading at all. It's manipulation, it's control, it's the abridgment of free will, it's creating a heck of a lot of karma. It's not leading. But when we're truly in service, and connected to our being, one of the things I loved what you said was that you know that in that expression, you are actually being led, because that's the exact same thing that is happening over here for
Yeah.
me. When I'm giving a talk, when I'm teaching, even right now in this conversation, I'm allowing spirit and the divine to say what needs to happen through me, because the ego self, Cameron, isn't really making being centered leadership happen, clearly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But by being and being connected to what I truly am, not who, but what, and connected to source in the ways that I know it, then exactly what you said. I know that my experience is that I am being led by truly being and becoming aware of the being spaces that I am creating, and in holding that container that is leadership, allowing for essentially the divine to move through us rather than an ego self. And this is moving away from an understanding of leader as the hero, right?
Yeah.
This being or this person who knows more, does better, will save us. No, to the understanding that we are our own savior. We have everything that we need inside of us, and it's time for us to turn that energy and our attention inward to recognize it. And yeah, I think the correlations between the work that you do in medicine journeys and the way in which I talk about leadership, I think they're one and the same.
Yeah. I love that. I think as well, my work here is to, again, bring balance, because I can even notice that there could even be a tendency to then relinquish it all to that higher power, and not actually take the responsibility for being that vessel for that higher power as well. There can be also be like a dissociation of it's just that and coming through me, and then it's being received by others, and it's not me, and it's all this. But there's a balance that needs to be had, I think, for my own journey, where standing in that authentic truth of allowing that balance to happen and to reconcile the part of me that wants to just put it all onto God and not take responsibility for things. Because if I don't take a certain level of responsibility for the beautiful things that come through, then it may also be same true for anything that comes through that is destructive. And there also needs to be that awareness within me to know that although whatever speaks through me or does work through me, it still is me as well. And I can find myself sometimes there's a fragmentation in perception or thought there for me sometimes. And it's, again, bringing that back into wholeness. You are that. You don't take glory for that. The glory is the divine's. But it's coming through this vessel, and you're allowing it to come through this vessel. And just as an instrument is important for the musician couldn't do its work if it didn't have the instrument. And there's this beautiful synergy of co-creation, of expression, and I feel like this is the juice of life. When we spoke at the very beginning of we are just incarnating as great spirit, having an experience through all of these different fractals of being. And I remember hearing a quote once which just summed it up beautifully, and I can't remember who it's by, and I'm sorry that I can't remember, but it was that life is love seeking to know itself. Love has this great desire to know itself, and so focuses itself into all of these different fragments so that it can experience itself through all different facets. And I love that. And that is, we're returning back to this Godhead of love. And that journey back there is, I'm just excited to be here in this lifetime, because there seems to be that a lot happening in this era. And yeah, it's amazing to be here.
Thank you. I think you said it beautifully. So that's probably going to close our episode. But I want to thank you for your time today, and for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge, and for allowing the divine to use you as an instrument for leadership. And you mentioned really the expression of authenticity as leading. And certainly it is my perspective that you exude authenticity in your own being, and I'm sure my listeners will feel the same. So I appreciate
Likewise,
you being
brother.
here to share about leadership and share about your perspectives. And yeah, I'm very grateful for our conversation today.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much. It's been beautiful speaking to you.
A heartfelt thanks to you for tuning into this episode. I'm Dr. Cameron Martin, and it's been an honor to support you on your path to self-discovery. As you reflect on today's conversation, remember that the journey toward living and leading from your soul's purpose is ongoing. You're never alone in it. Until next time.